Although we might want to wait until Jean comes down, maybe, so you don't get trapped.
Yes, I've got to make a couple of trips down there.
Yeah.
I'm just going to hand it to her.
What's that?
I'll hand it to her.
Oh, good. Yeah, so Jean, you come out, and then Jamie can go there.
Okay. Let me give you these two. Tray.
No, you go down there and I'm going to hand it to you. That's the trade-off.
Okay, so I don't need the tray.
No, I don't need it right now. I'm going to hand these all to you.
I'm so new at this. It's hard to know what to do without Carrie.
Good morning and welcome. I hope that our live stream is going and that you can hear my voice. My name is Reverend Charles Cowherd. I'm the rector here at St. Timothy's, and I'm joined today by an illustrious panel to present. This is our, I believe, third, maybe fourth ecumenical roundtable, and this is a part of our series, I Am the Church, You Are the Church, We're the Church. And it's a way to get to know the people who sit next to you in the pews, the people who you see across from you in church. There's an old stewardship line, which is that if you want to get people to give more money to you in church, put a moment in the service where people talk about their faith, and all priests say, well, what do we take out? And the stewardship people say, anything. You can take out anything. Just get people up there talking about their faith. This is not a stewardship talk. This is instead entitled 4 Under 40, and both of those things are inaccurate. There are 5 folks here, and one of them is over 40. But I remember those lists. Oh, 2 of them are over 40. I remember all those lists about, 40 under 40, and I always thought, one day I never made it, and so now we're in it right now, and this is just a way to get to know folks in our congregation, get to know folks, again, who are sitting next to you. Bob, after the service, when I announced this last week, he said, we should have one for over 70, and so we can have a 7 over 70 one of these days. So I'm really glad that you guys are all here, and the reason there's more than you, everyone said yes, and so that was made me really happy. Usually I ask more people than I need, and then you whittle it down, and so this is gonna be very informal, and we're just gonna hear people talk. They're gonna introduce themselves, say who they are, where they're from, their family system, what church they grew up in, if they grew up in a church, how they came to St. Timothy's, and all that. And so I think, Liz, we're gonna start with you.
Testing. Hi. So I'm Liz Budnick. My husband is the last person down there, Damian Budnick. I am 40, so I technically qualify for the 4 or 5 under 40. Let's see, where I came from. I grew up in Atlanta, Georgia. My father is Catholic, and my mother is from Church of Christ. And my parents believed that we should decide what faith to grow up in, but generally gave us, Christian values as part of our upbringing. And so I had a mixture of going to Church of Christ and Catholic Mass with both my parents. My dad was pretty religious, so he tried to go every Sunday, time permitting. My mother, not so much at home, but when we visited her parents in Florida, my grandparents, we had to go to Sunday school and then to church. at Church of Christ. So my grandparents actually had the most influence, I would say, over my faith and upbringing. They were very adamant that I should be baptized in Church of Christ. So when I turned 16, I was baptized there in Florida at their church. And it was, the whole underwater experience, up in the, I don't even know what to call it, but it's like up on stage behind a panel, just you and, the reverend, and you just get kind of put underwater. So that was quite the experience. My sister also got baptized at the same time, and she's 4 years younger than me, so she was 12. And it was a memorable experience. It was great. So I grew up in the Church of Christ. We didn't really go that much to church when we were living in Atlanta. I would say that we went to church more in Florida when if my grandparents were visiting in Atlanta. But nonetheless, I felt a very strong calling to, in rough times, or, when you're a teenager, you're like going through a lot of things. And I would always pick up the Bible, just flip to a page, and something about a verse would speak to me in that moment that felt powerful. So I felt, some connection to the church, even though I wasn't really going that often. Fast forward to college and then post-college, I did go to church here and there with friends. Usually my friends went to Catholic Mass, so I would just attend with them because I knew, a thing or two about it. Of course, can't take communion, but at least, was there in spirit. And so what brought me here, we had our daughter Charlotte, and when she was about 4 months or so, and I was coming off maternity leave, I was like, we got to find a church here in Herndon. And my neighbors had talked about St. Tim's. Some go to the preschool, some attend, and I just said, let's give St. Tim's a try. I really want Charlotte to grow up with the same value system that I grew up with, through my grandparents and parents, Christian values, and so we found ourselves here. My brother-in-law is also Episcopalian, so when he was visiting during my maternity leave, he said, it's so funny, because I was like thinking about St. Tim's, and he was like, when we were driving from the airport, I noticed an Episcopalian church on our way, and it's right there, like close, it's like probably 5 minutes away, and I was like, you're talking about St. Tim's, so I was like, let's give it a try. I feel like that was 2 signs now, like neighbors and brother-in-law said go, so, and here we are, and it feels like family, feels like home, so that's my story.
And I'll just editorialize on top of that. One time I was leaving a clergy meeting at Trinity Presbyterian, right here in town, and I was thinking about all my colleagues and their churches and everything, and I was kind of driving away, and then I saw this young couple walking. It was in the middle of the day, and I think they were even holding hands. I was like, oh, that's so beautiful. I wonder what church they go to. And it was Liz and Damien, and I was like, oh, they go to my church, it was really, really great. So even though they're seated 3 streets down from each other, they do take romantic walks during the time.
We do. But yeah, sorry, that was probably more than
Okay. I'm Amy, and I'm about to be 25. I'm 24 right now. And I just moved here, so I moved to Herndon in end of February. Just like a little background, my boyfriend is a professional soccer player, so he plays for DC United. We have moved a couple of times. We both went to Wake Forest, North Carolina, and then he played for a year in St. Louis, and now we're here in Virginia. But I grew up in Church of the Holy Spirit, so I am originally from Illinois. Lake Forest, which is about like 30 minutes outside of Chicago. And my grandparents, my mom, we all went to the Episcopal Church in Lake Forest, and my dad and my mom unfortunately were separated, so my dad wasn't as involved in my religious upbringing, but my mom made sure we went to Sunday school. We were baptized and confirmed in the same church. And then I was really, really involved in the acolyte program. So I started off like, basic acolyte, and then I worked my way up to head crucifer, and I feel like that was probably my favorite part of being involved in the church there. And then I did like Christmas pageants, stuff like that. But yeah, I feel like it was more, my mom very much made sure that we were involved. She now is a member of an Anglican church, so she went a little stricter. But she's definitely the big driving force in my religious upbringing. And then when I went to college, I feel like it was a little harder. There's a lot of things going on. I feel like similar to you. I did go with some friends, but I like this sort of church setup rather than what they were involved in. Nothing wrong with that, but it was a little bit more modernized. And so I feel like I didn't really have a home church for college and then in St. Louis. And when we moved here, I kept passing St. Tim's as we would go to like Sprouts, or I work pretty close to here in Reston, and so I kept passing the church. I'm like, oh, I'm gonna go check it out. And I really like the 8 a.m. services, so yeah.
Thanks so much, Amy. You guys just make this seem so easy. This is actually really, really hard to talk about your faith in front of people. And I know as talking about your family is really hard. And when I preach on sermons, I usually ask, if my mother or father is going to be involved in that. It's really because it hits really close to the core. And so this is really, thank you guys for doing this so well.
So I grew up in Macon, Georgia. Young, I knew God, but we weren't really into it, like, I don't know at the time. Then when I got to high school, seen this one group, they said, come play basketball with church group. I said, nah, I don't want to do that. And then just going, thinking, I guess God was talking to me, say, come play basketball. So I went to play basketball, ended up going to their church, being there, and then I had to make a tough decision to leave because, like, people were talking about each other, and, like, it just went up God. So, played football at Westside High School. Played with the pastor that I had, his son. So we were playing. He said, why don't you come to youth group? Just come one day. I like, what, youth group? Okay, I said, okay, Wednesday night. I'll come to youth group. So I went to youth group, loved it. Pastor Mark, he ended up becoming my father. I'll tell you down the line the story. So ended up going to youth group. So it was Macon Wesleyan Church. No longer exists anymore. And we ended up going to church, loving that church. Went to youth group, ended up going on Sunday. Then he was like, you want to get baptized? Like, yeah. So he did old school traditional, like Jordan got baptized in the river. I got baptized in the river. So that was pretty cool, got baptized in the river. So he was with me through all the journey, and I knew that I wanted to get out of Macon. Macon was a bad place, so I like, only thing is to play ball, so college basketball. So my god brother was like, hey, why don't you come down to Iola, Kansas? So I went to Iola, Kansas. Played ball there. Ended up going to Oklahoma, LCA. I did LCA high school. After that Oklahoma didn't work out like God was telling me something. And like, we went to my pastor one time. We was low on gas. He was like, "We're gonna take you down to huh? Oh, I didn't hear him. Okay. So he took me to the tribe. So I tried it for Southern Wesleyan, which is in Central South Carolina. Ended up making the team, going down there. Then my faith started getting stronger. I got down there first. I was like, hey, let's do a newspaper. We want to know what your faith. So I had to do a whole background story on my faith and why I'm here and about my coaching and stuff like that. That's the reason I coach, a Christian coach, not a Christian teacher, because of my own Christian coach. So after I left there, went to Blacksburg with she was my fiance then, now my wife Ashley. Carry on, I'm gonna fast forward because it's a long story. End up just got real close to God. You know what I mean? Like I love my church. Then I went away, and then I didn't go to Macon West, and then finally my wife went to Episcopal church. I was like, yeah, I'm gonna try it, because she was went to Episcopal church in Old Parish in Williamsburg. So ended up liking the Episcopal church. We moved here, and I had my son LJ in Indianapolis, like had a new job. So we moved down here to back to Virginia to be close to family. Then when I got down here, it was like, hey, gotta find a church. I'm like, yeah, I want to try the Episcopal church. So funny story, we came here on Christmas Eve. My little one was baby Jesus. That's how we was introduced to this church. We right around the corner in Foxmere, so he was baby Jesus. So that's how we got introduced to this church. And we kept coming here and hear the dad like, man, I want to do this. So I went through all the classes. So now I'm here, a member of the church, and like my faith is getting stronger and stronger with God. You know what I mean? Anything I need, ask, and I go to Him. So I love it.
And his family are indeed Foxmill with Michelle and I, and so we see them every day at the pool, and so it's been great getting to know you, Jermaine, through all that. It's really great. Yeah.
If you're not going to ask me questions later, you can, but my story is so long, I don't want to.
Yeah, and it's interesting. You were baptized in the river, and the technical term for where you were baptized is a stall, and then I assume you were baptized in an Episcopal church. Yeah, it's interesting. Yeah, thank you, Baron. Yeah.
All right. My name is Varun Lal, and I am 37 for another week and a couple days. So yeah, I was born in Culpeper, like Charles, and went to St. Stephen's, like Charles. And yeah, I was raised Episcopalian, I was baptized, confirmed, all in St. Stephen's down in Culpeper. And we were active in the church. We went a lot. My mom was confirmation teacher, as the famous story. I was the confirmation teacher for Charles. But my faith journey didn't really start until we moved up here. We moved up here in '99. I was going to 7th grade, and we looked around different churches, my family and I, and we settled on St. Anne's over in Reston. And yeah, that's where I found my faith, really. It was just an amazing place at the time. Father Jim Papil, he was just a great priest. And at St. Anne's, I was very active as an acolyte, crucifer, youth group. I taught Sunday school. I was a youth vestry member. Went on a couple service trips as well. So it was, and on one of those service trips is really where I, kind of had that discovery of God moment. And so yeah, love service trips. They're amazing, especially for youth. And then I went to JMU, James Madison, and Canterbury Campus Ministry down there. I attended there. It's a really awesome place for college kids. I was a treasurer and senior warden there as part of the campus ministry. Also did like alternative spring break service trips every spring break. So it was a really just fantastic place just to be around people my own age and continue to grow the faith. And then after college, it was much like many people in their 20s, and I was prioritized going out Saturday nights and sleeping in on Sunday mornings, then going to church. So I didn't really attend church a whole lot. And then when Carrie and I got married, we were living up in Silver Spring, Maryland, and we kept trying to get engaged in a church. We tried going to National Cathedral, like trying to make that our church home. That didn't really work out. And then we moved to Rockville, Maryland, and our daughter Kira, when she was born, we got her baptized at a church up there, but just didn't really click or anything like that. So, and then when we fast forward to post-pandemic, we moved back here to be closer to the family, and Kira went to the preschool, and then right at the same year that Charles joined, and then it's like, oh, friendly face, hey, years later. And we always knew we were going to come here, we were just waiting to feel comfortable and ready, and especially since our son, Isaac, was then born too. And then it's like, yeah, okay, let's start doing this, because Isaac needs to get baptized too, and we want to get re-engaged as well. So yeah, then we started coming, and it's been great. Now I'm the godly play teacher here. I'm now part of the vestry, and it's been really great to reconnect and again, have that community again.
All that story is all true about that. His mother taught me. It was my confirmation teacher, and then we saw each other in Henry Hall. And I had to blink a few times. And it's all really it's kind of amazing. And I have to remind myself that we had that whole history with one another when we were very small. And I did not know that you were a youth vestry member. You didn't say that when you're on your vestry application for this year. You should have, said, I've already done this before. Yeah. Yeah. Right.
This is my first
There you go.
I'm sorry to tell you about this. I'm the other 40.
It's 44, yeah. Please, Damien.
Hey there, my name's Damien, 32, so below the 40 mark. And so growing up, I was born in Orlando, but I moved up here when I was 2. So whenever I always tell the story of was I born here, I practically say I am, but I always refer technically down in Orlando, Florida, so I'm Florida man technically. My parents, my father and my mother, they're both in Catholic churches. So naturally growing up, I was in Catholic, but we didn't go to church as much. It was kind of more focused on just family priorities at the time, just working and keeping up with the house. And I have a sister too, so just kind of hodgepodge with the house, with the family and all. We did the traditional things like Passover, Lent, and fasting and stuff too. But growing up, for me, it didn't really get more religious till close to college, because I went to Marymount University, and that's a private Catholic university there too. Plus also one of the schools that took me at the time, not that low GPA, but it was just hard around 2012 for some reason. Everyone was applying. But regardless, one of the requirements or the prerequisites for a lot of the classes, and I major in IT, for any major, is that you had to take theology. So the study of religion and studying all these religions. And going back to Catholic, that was a little bit easier A than it was Taoism and other religions, and we don't need to go into all that to bring me bad memories. Kidding. But it just gave me a holistic view and a secular view when it came to just the types of faith out there and just the worldliness that people have into their faith in God and what they have in family values. So I took that with me. Still didn't go to church as much after that too, because after college it was just more paying down debt, getting like a job, and finding a soulmate, which 4 seats down, not next to me, which is fine. We get enough of each other in the car. One day we'll get there. But yes, tying back to my wife's story, Elizabeth, is when we moved to Herndon, we wanted to have a little bit more faith together with our daughter Charlotte, and now our soon-to-be son in January. And so we were looking at churches, and just like she said, you had 2 signs, and we looked at St. Tim's. We even have an Episcopalian church literally across the block. I'm like, you sure you don't want to check that one? We could just walk and bring the stroller. She's like, no, I want to check out St. Tim's. I'm like, all right, we could check it out. And yeah, the drive's worth it every Sunday, and even more whenever you have other events. But that's really it. Yeah, thank you.
I think I'll open it up for questions from the peanut gallery. First, just anybody can answer this. The general question of, if you're not aware, that church attendance is down across the board, but particularly among younger people. And it's not simply, it's you name it, what denominations it's down. And
Does that count virtual? You guys still count?
That's and so I just wonder when you think about your peers, when you think about your siblings, how does that strike you? You guys are rare birds, is what I'm saying. All of us are rare birds, increasingly. You guys in particular, young parents, young people, just don't go to church.
What's the average age right now?
I couldn't give that to you off the top of my head, but
I just think, a lot of people want to be of the world and not comfortable with their faith. So they go to church, why should I go to church? Bad things are still happening to me. God is not blessing me, and not knowing that ain't the way it works of faith and religion. So I guess as more people start believing and just having faith. You know, me as a teacher, I take that. I have to have faith every day, no matter what. You got a tough situation, work with kids with special needs. You got to have faith to walk in there, and when you getting hit or a kid running or a kid have a seizure, you have to have faith and have God in that situation. So sometimes you got to take a moment, and some people want it to happen now instead of waiting it out and knowing that like life is not all chocolate cake or ice cream. And so a lot of people like, oh, why should I go to church? Bad things are happening anyway. So people come up with excuses. I think it's like an excuse thing why people don't come to church no more. This young generation make excuses, but they want to go party with their friends or be over the world. So that's what I think it is.
You can pass it on down, Doug. Or did I see you?
I was raised because when you said partying with your friends, that was me.
Yeah. There you go.
Yeah, exactly. And oh yeah. Again, I think that's part of it too, right? I think, especially in the Episcopal faith, we don't have what many people who were raised Catholic. I'm not going to knock it, but the term Catholic guilt, like thankfully we don't instill that in our youth, in our people. So I think it's pros and cons too, because you don't feel like, as a youth, it's church can be something I'll come to later when I have a family, or the church will always be there, and it'll be there like it becomes more priority when it comes to raising the family and things like that. But unfortunately, too, like we also need to nurture and raise that faith in ourselves as well. And I think, ignoring that, I think it just creates a hole. I know for myself, again, for example, attended all the way through college, but then, in my 20s and early 30s, wasn't there. That, it only isn't when you get back into church that you feel like, oh, something's been missing all this time.
Yeah, please.
Yeah, I think a lot of it, at least for people my age, is finding a routine. Because in college, like, you're thrown out of routine. Like, my brother is going into his senior year at Auburn, and he goes to church when he goes home, like when he's home with my mom. But if he's at school, he doesn't have a church to go to, so it's like access to a car, depending on campus, and then like just access to like you've always gone with the same person, so now you're thrown out of that routine, and then in my case, just the moving. And then I think people around my age that I'm meeting here, more of it is like they're trying to find a balance between like what they've grown up with and now how the world looks like and how religion looks now. Because I think, like, I would say I stick very closely to what my mom taught me, but there's also some things that I'm a little bit more, I'll say, lax about. But I think, like, I have a friend, for example, she is actually Muslim, and her parents want her boyfriend to convert, and I think that's something she's struggling with, because she wants to still be with her faith, but she also loves this person, and he is not Muslim. And so I think, and like, my boyfriend is not Episcopalian, he's Japanese, and he relies more on his like tradition and stuff like that. So for him, I'm just respectful of that, and we each have our own routine. So I think it's finding a routine and then finding a balance between what you were raised with and then how things look now. So yeah.
I don't have all the statistics, but I do, study this stuff for a living, and you notice like the people's descriptions of when they found a church home, some like use the expression, it just clicked, or we just knew, and that's ineffable. And if you could bottle that, and then know it or routinize it somehow, and like the whole field of congregational studies is how do you get people to come back to your church? They've come once, and how do they? And it's a lot of it is an art, not a science. And so I'm very thankful to all of you for coming back, and doing all that. And I wish, of course, you wish that we had that secret sauce for the whole world. Like for example, with Amy. She came on at 8 o'clock, one morning, I remember, and I sent Ellie, our seminarian, to kind of investigate, because Ellie's younger, and it was like, tell her we also have a 10 o'clock, she's making a big, she doesn't know, and she's so faithful at 8 o'clock and brings the average age down, significantly, so. I think we'll open it up here to the masses, if anyone has a question. I have a few more, but I know Elaine will, yeah. And this is on, so you can just talk.
I just felt like growing up, our world was very small. And I think today's young people, their world is huge. And so I wonder if part of your situation was trying to make your world a little smaller, a little closer, a little deeper to other people.
Does that resonate with anybody? Ooh, or Bob? Bob had a question? Yeah.
I had a question for you.
Yeah.
Going to Wake Forest, did you find that's a religious school?
Yes and no.
Oh, okay.
There are religious, I think it started off as Baptist, I want to say, but there's religious organizations on campus.
Okay.
There was an Episcopal group, which I was a part of for my freshman year, but I feel like it gets to the point where people have to choose, like,
Okay.
between different things. Like, I was very involved in the athletic department, and so that became basically like my full-time
Okay,
job
yeah.
rather than school, and so I even ended up, like, I was in a sorority, and I ended up choosing, like, athletics over the sorority, and so, like, it's just, it gets to be where you want to do all these things, but you're given all those options, but then there's only so much time. So.
Thanks.
Yeah, it's the demon deacons, right? It's the emphasis on the demon or the deacon, right? Yeah. And I think even, people would say even Notre Dame or Catholic University, it's that sort of thing. So, yeah.
I was going to address Elaine's question. Yeah, social media plays a big part, I think, in our, generation of, how we were raised. Facebook came out when I was in college, so probably similar. Well, maybe not you. You're younger. You grew up with it. But Facebook came out in college, and then, there's Instagram now, and you can find anything you want in the world out there right now on the internet. So I also think that plays back to your question, which I was going to address earlier, why people don't come to church that are younger. I think, like, for a lot of my friends, we're comfortable with our faith. We believe in God. We know, I can pick up the Bible and kind of self-reflect or whatever. So that combined with time management, there's not much time to do anything anymore. So finding that time to go to church, to actually physically go, has been difficult. And I think we, Damien and I actually have to, carve out the time on Sundays, and we say, no, this is our time for church. And, there could be a million other things we could be doing, food prepping, helping Charlotte play, doing something. But we have to carve out this time. That's part of our value system. So I think the world is huge, like you said, and just knowing that we want to find this home, this specific small home, definitely resonates.
Yeah, pass it on down, but I hear a paradox. There's so much choice and no time to do, and I remember when we were parents during COVID, and that's always parents of small children during COVID, and it always made me, and I was a religious professional, and it's so hard to go to church, and always hopefully gave me great empathy for people, like when people are like, gosh, we just don't have time, and I was like, I know, it's hard, and then you guys in different generations might be like, is it really? Or like, I think of my mother, had 4 children and taking us to church, and so it's all out on the table, Damien, solve it for us. Yeah.
No, Drew, I just wanted to caveat a little bit from what Liz was saying too. I grew up around Reston Herndon for a long time, but a lot of my friends and family have moved on. My mother's now in Florida, retired, living by the beach. My father's still in Reston, but a lot of my friends moved around. But and we first started dating and got married we got married in Virginia, but we were living at her condo at the time in DC. And when I was showing her this area in Herndon, Reston area, a lot of things have changed ever since COVID and a few other things. So besides people moving and leaving, it's also like buildings and places where I used to know and be familiar with also changed too. So going back to community, we also wanted to be grounded in the area where I grew up. I told her it's a great area, great schools. And so when we were looking for the church, we were looking to be part of a community, a part of a family too. So the circle was broad in the beginning, but also got a little bit more finite as to being in the Herndon area, going to Friday Night Live whenever we try to, as far as dinner times and everything else too. But that's, yeah, community was one of the biggest choices that we made when coming here.
Just emphasize how countercultural it is for all of us to go to church. You know, it's not a matter of like patting ourselves on the back. It's more just like a way of saying, to admit it, that it's weird, you know, and it's strange, you know, and it's not 1955 anymore. And so what does that mean? And like, how's that going to look? And it's going to increasingly more so look like that. And my next question, it might be the final question. It's a ginger one, or you know, I ask it gingerly. It's just talking about difference. And all of you on the stage, I believe that Carrie was raised Catholic, right? So all of you guys, in some way, shape, or form, you married somebody or are partners with somebody who's outside your faith, sometimes outside of your tribe, your race, you know? And that's just a lot of difference. And I think it goes back to Elaine's question. If everyone was marrying Episcopalians and staying in the same small town, then we would have a lot bigger churches, you know, like, but we're not. We're free to, you know, and we're on basically the second generation of doing that. You know, that's not really recent. Just like asking you guys how you negotiate that with your spouse, you know, and your partner, you know, and how you, your faith life. Amy talked a little bit about that, and how that kind of, with your children, how that kind of plays out. You know, Michelle's an Episcopalian, I'm an Episcopalian. We met at church. We're like the last couple that will ever meet at church, you know? Like, anyway.
Yeah, I can go first. And yeah, so my wife, Carrie, she was raised Catholic. But again, they were the high Sunday, high holy day type. And I mean, she was unhappy with the Catholic Church for, you know, variety of reasons, many of the reasons. So it was pretty easy because, again, the Episcopal Church is, you know, some call it Catholic light because we share a lot of similar, you know, parts of the service and everything. And Carrie and I have been dating since high school, so she's always seen my faith with, you know, through Episcopal Church. And then when we went to, because we went to college together too, and so she attended Canterbury as well. So it was easy because it was easy transition for her. And we both, when we got married at St. Anne's. So for her, it was a pretty easy switch. So for me, it was easy for us.
I mean, going back to the bio story that I told out earlier too, just it was easy for me to understand from going through Marymount University, understanding all the different religions, but aligning more with my wife Elizabeth. She'll talk a little bit more to her too. Just find something that we have understanding of both. She was with Church of Christ and Catholic. I was more Catholic, but it just made sense to align, you know, the values of everything that's going on with St. Tim's, and it just aligned with us.
I was going to say, I think we're both open-minded. So keeping an open mind, coming to St. Tim's and learning the Episcopalian faith, it was sort of a mixture between Church of Christ and Catholic. So we both felt like we could play a part here and understood it and could, you know, we're sort of children of the church because we are new. So as Charlotte got baptized here, I was kind of thinking to myself, like, well, we kind of are getting baptized into the Episcopalian Church too, so we're all kind of going through it and learning it together. But yeah, I think because we both had open minds about, you know, other faiths, and that this was sort of smack in the middle of Catholicism and Church of Christ, so.
So I'll start with my mom and my stepdad. So my stepdad is actually Catholic, and my brother, even though he spent most of his time in the Episcopal Church, is actually confirmed Catholic because my mom liked the way they did their Sunday school better. She wanted it to be a little bit more hardcore, I guess. Especially since my brother's the second child, he's a little bit more wild than I was, I guess. But yeah, so they always work it out, especially when they lived in Illinois. They now live in Alabama, but my mom would go to her church, he would go to the Catholic church, and then we meet back up. My brother would either go to the Catholic church or the Episcopal church, and then I sometimes went to the Catholic church as well if we all wanted to all four go together. And then currently with my partner, I think it's just a sense of respect. So I'm very respectful of the fact that he is very into like using his mind in meditation, stuff like that, especially when he's playing on the field. And I think just the love he has towards his family and his culture is very, like, I admire that. And so I feel like I give him respect in that way, and then he respects that I do something every Sunday for myself. And I think we both share that love for family, for sports, of course. And so I think we get along in that way. And then if there's anything, not that we have the issue of, we just have a dog and a cat, so it's not like we're raising kids yet. But I'm sure if we had some issues that come up, we would probably go the approach that your parents and your grandparents did, where like we're giving them options to choose. So I think that's a big thing in the modern world, is just everyone has to figure out where, like, again, routine, what works for them. Like, I'm probably the only one of my friends who gets up really early and then goes to gym, goes to church, all that sort of stuff, but it works for me, and so hopefully people can find what works for them. So
It was easy for me. Church get out in an hour. Sign me up now. Now, making Wesleyan, going to Wesleyan church, going to a Wesleyan school. Know that I want to be with somebody faith. Have my kid grow up in faith. So going there and then switching over Episcopalian was easy because, like, I want to go to a church that don't doubt nobody, don't put nobody down, no matter what you're going through. In the Episcopal church, they don't judge. They don't put people down. They welcome you with open arms. And I'm like, hey, I want to be a part of that. So my wife was Episcopalian, like, hey, I'm going to switch over. So we started going to Episcopalian church. Was in Indianapolis. Then we moved up here. And now I'm here at St. Timothy, and I love it. So it was an easy transition from making Wesleyan. It was like music, prayer, and like you go home. You go out an hour and then come here. It's the same thing. It's like you don't have to over-worship God. You don't have to like wear your faith on your sleeve. Y'all don't do that here. You welcome people. When you're down or you lose someone, you're always checking up. Oh, you okay? I just recently lost my aunt at 80, and like it ain't really hit me yet. So like I just like keeping God, because I know I got to focus on work and school, and it's hard. And then coming here today, it was hard to do it. Like I had to give God, like in the car, God give me strength to do this. I won't break down and think about my aunt. So like just knowing that y'all gonna be here for me. And then when I come in, like when I first got her, and I got to church, met the Reverend. He was like, hey, how you doing? Like welcome. And then I came here, met other people, and they welcomed me. So it was an easy decision. I love being a part of the Episcopal Church.
I think we're going to give Jermaine the last word, or rather, I'll get the last word. Jermaine, during confirmation classes, had a lot of questions about speaking in tongues and interpretation of tongues, and I was like, well, we don't really do that much in the Episcopal Church. And then for the confirmation service, when we had the big bilingual service with the bishop and everything, he's sitting right there, and we start to do one of the prayers, and we're, maybe it was the Pentecost reading, and it's all different language, and Jermaine goes to me, goes, speaking in tongues. Like that. So he won on that front. Thank you all guys so much. Let's give a round of applause. Thanks for joining us. We got to flip here because we have a baptism coming up. So if we can get the chairs somewhere else.
Hey, go Tigers.